Okay, so this video is going to be very useful for the guys out there, probably a lot of you, who are a bit too smart for your own good, and it actually gets in the way of creating attraction with women. Um, I want you to try to become more stupid. You could also think of it as more naive, or even more primal, but we'll go with stupid for right now. I think it kind of encompasses everything I want to talk about. And the reason why I want you to become more stupid is what I just said. Your intelligence is actually getting in the way of your seductions because a seduction, making a girl like you enough to want to have sex with you relatively quickly, within the first couple dates, it is a combination of having a social bond, right? Getting to know her. What does she want out of life? Her fears, her hopes, her dreams, stories about her life that she normally might not share with someone that she just met, but because she feels a lot of comfort with you, then she's kind of willing to share more of that. So that's one way that you build a bond with a girl. But then there is the aspect of actually turning her on, making her excited, making her feel feminine, maybe even submissive, getting her pussy wet, right? That is a little bit different of an ordeal. And a lot of times, as you probably know from getting friend zoned or knowing of guys who are stuck in the friend zone, that just because you build a bond with a person doesn't mean they want to have sex with you, right? But even if you want a relationship or something casual, right? But even if you want a relationship, there's going to be sex involved, right? And that's something that you want, even though a lot of guys pretend they don't. But you're going to have that connection with her. Well, that is much more primal, right? And the only evidence you need is think about sex. Is sex an intellectual affair? No, it actually gets in the way if you're too intellectual. That's why a lot of guys who are too smart have a lot of erectile dysfunction, is because along with their thinking ability, that will carry over into intelligence is keeping a lot of things in your head at once, right? And being able to make combinations out of them. Well, creativity is being able to make combinations, but having a lot of things in your head is intelligence, and then wisdom is knowing which things to keep in your head, right? But if you have a lot of intelligence and you have a lot of thoughts in your head, well, that's going to take up a lot of energy, and that energy is very often going to be its output is going to be anxiety. Okay, so you're going to be anxious when you're in bed with girl, and that very often causes erectile dysfunction. It causes premature ejaculation. Most cases, unless you have some sort of health issue, the vast majority of guys who have problems with that, unless you're old, right, is in your mind, right? But sex is a primal affair. I mean, if you're doing it right, um, it's pretty animalistic. I mean, you're kind of breathing really hard, maybe even grunting and growling, and your positions tend to be very, you're kind of enveloping her. If you're a missionary, you're like taking her under your arms and you're just fucking pile driving into her. Um, if she's in doggy style, you actually do, I call it the lion posture. It's where you actually get up on your feet over her, not just one knee up, right? And you're just like pile driving into her ass when she's in doggy. So if you're fucking right, most of the time the best sex is very primal, dominant sex, right? Not a lot of sophistication going on there because that's not the nature of sex. It's a primal affair. It's an affair of the body. It's an affair of the mind. But the best sex is when you're just focused on how she feels, how she tastes, how she smells, and vice versa, right? She gets lost in the sensations rather than thinking about it too much. So if you want to affect girls on that level before the bedroom, right, and actually turn them on for eventually ending up in the bedroom, you want to play that game on that level. Well, that the arousal game is mostly done with the five senses rather than the sixth sense of thinking. So she's going to be watching how you move, watching how you look at her. She's going to be listening to the way you speak. Your words are important, but the way you speak. And all of that, and you can have different archetypes, okay? You can be the really extroverted, funny guy. You can be the more stoic, James Bondy guy, or the more like primal kind of animalistic, quiet guy. You can be the very charismatic kind of car salesman personality. You can fit a lot of different archetypes, but always within those archetypes, you have to have good fundamentals. Okay, I always really try to pound the idea of fundamentals into your head, and that is facial expressions, body language, vocal tonality, eye contact, and hand gestures. Actually, a lot of your speaking is done with, right? If you just see me talking like this, it's pretty cool. I mean, my voice is very normal, or it's intonating a lot. I kind of have my facial expressions going. There's a lot of variety, and you feel like you're watching a live person who, has some depth and blah blah blah. Kind of stroking my own dick, but you get the point, right? But then if I add in the hands, okay, now I can like explain things a bit better, and hands are really, really important. And I want to do videos on all of those individual factors, but specifically this video, I'm becoming more stupid. I want you to be thinking, this is about arousal, okay? This is less about creating a bond. This is more about creating arousal with a girl. So the first tip I'm going to be giving you is I don't want you to necessarily think less, right? I mean, I'm thinking a lot right now, right? I'm trying to process how to best teach you guys, what kind of language I should be using, what sort of examples, any metaphors, blah, blah, blah. But I want you to think more simply, okay? And that's going to translate to speaking more simply as well, right? So don't think less, think simpler, and then speak simpler. And what I mean by thinking simply and then speaking simply, simple language, okay? You can throw in a $10 word here and there if it really fits. But generally, just say what you mean, okay? And say less. That's going to give whatever it is, the thought or emotion that you want to give her, without overdoing it. And when you overdo it, there's a lot of interpretations of what, depending on how you do it. She could think you're trying too hard. You could come off very nervous and excitable, and it doesn't really show a lot of control. It might insinuate or imply that you are uncomfortable, which is not a very good sign, because you should be comfortable around her, especially if she's very beautiful, because that would demonstrate that you can handle being around a girl like her and you're not intimidated by her beauty, because your behavior is a demonstration of that. You don't have to tell her, I've been with girls just as hot as you. It's going to be evident in your behavior, and then that's going to make her feel comfortable. And that's super important also when you are trying to make a girl feel sexually aroused, because arousal is a heightened emotion, but at the same time, for that block it, or that gate to open, usually for a lot of guys, there's a blockage of her not feeling comfortable. So it isn't a very excitable, almost anxious kind of emotion. Like, it's very intense sexual arousal, right? Your heart's beating fast. You're like, oh my God, your senses are heightened. But if you don't feel comfortable, then that can turn into, it just won't unlock, right? It's why you get erectile dysfunction. Think about it. There's a blockage. The blood is not freely flowing into your dick. So this is the main thing. Is going to make her comfortable when you're speaking more simply, and it just shows you're not trying too hard. Take your time, okay? Don't be in a rush, right? I'm maybe overdoing it in this video, kind of taking a lot of pauses. I am trying to exemplify what I'm trying to teach you with this video. But sometimes I'm in this mood. I'm not in the super... Usually when I'm standing up and doing like the whiteboards over there, it's not in the background because there's a reflection. I painted my wall, by the way, guys. I think it looks good. It's really good for lighting. My old director, David, if you remember him, he gave me the advice to paint that wall, and I think it really works good. And I got that lamp, so I think it really... And I'm using my phone now as my webcam. Got a little app for it, so very pretty. Yeah, when I'm doing the whiteboard videos, I'm like, and I'm in that mood sometimes. But right now I'm kind of in that. Take your time. Feels like we're having a conversation between friends kind of thing. And that's how you want it to feel with a girl, because um, there's nothing wrong with creating a bond and being friendly with a girl. As long as you're adding sexuality onto it, you're not going to get friend zoned. Guys who get friend zoned, they're actually halfway there. The girl is happy enough to spend time around him and feels close to him, but she doesn't feel the sexual connection. So this is helping teach you that second half. But yeah, don't be in a rush, because it, for all the reasons I just explained about the speaking less and speaking more simply, it makes her feel comfortable. It makes you feel comfortable. And those two things are going to lead into letting your body speak for you and being more primal, which is important for all the reasons I've kind of already explained. But then that also leads into, okay, well, what do I mean? Let your body speak for you. Well, fundamentals. Okay, so what do those fundamentals need to look like? Well, you have an archetype. It doesn't need to be one way. You don't have to be slow and sultry and James Bondy. You can, if that's your archetype. Like, that's kind of just a personality you tend towards. Right? Very likely you're not going to shift your personality in a you're not going to yank it in a far direction, right? You're mostly going to kind of move it a little bit left or right. If you're outgoing, you can maybe get a little more introverted, kind of slow down a little bit. If you're pretty introverted, you can maybe get a little more extroverted, but you're not going to make some quantum leap to a different personality. There's too much conditioning that has formed you in this life. But any archetype can be attractive, right? So I don't want you to think of specifically, I have to sound like Hector's talking right now, or I have to have a really deep. I don't have a very deep voice at all. I have a pretty high pitched voice, but I make it work. Okay, it's never really gotten in the way. What's important though is having a loose fundamentals, loose face, meaning I can allow myself a lot of different emotions, a wide range of emotions. Okay, loose body language. Okay, I'm kind of like just rocking in my chair. I'm not trying to be super uber serious, but I'm also not like, I want you to think of like super tense and super wild as just the different sides of the same coin, right? They're both anxious in their own way. One is taking that anxiety and just letting it out like a machine gun, and the other one is like trying to restrain all of the energy, right? None of them are very attractive to see in a person, okay? So loose body language, allow yourself to kind of move. Loose voice, right? You're not going to be stuck in one monotone, right? Or one speed of talking. Sometimes you're going to talk really fast, and sometimes you're going to talk kind of slow. Let your hands talk for you, okay? So when these things become loose, then you can use whatever archetype you are, whatever kind of personality structure that you have, extroverted, introverted, intellectual, more jabroni, meathead, or maybe you're artistic, or maybe you're more structured, right? Are you kind of like a lawyer or an engineer, or are you a painter and an artist, right? Those are going to have very, very different personality structures. So once that archetype is loose, then you can let it talk for you. And then what you start doing is you start replacing unnecessary language. So let's say a girl is talking and she's like, yeah, so what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm an accountant. Oh, okay. What made you want to do that? What was expressed in the way that I just did that, right? The head movement, the vocal tonality. Oh, okay. The facial expression. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm thinking it's kind of boring, kind of whatever. What made you want to do that? Versus just, oh, cool. What made you want to do that? Which is a very static question, right? It's boring as shit. But then if you go on the other side where you use too much verbiage, where it's like, oh, well, what made you want to do that? It sounds kind of boring. That's fucking insulting, right? Again, you can make that work, but what I'm trying to show you is that I used my body to replace a lot of what was trying to be expressed. And of course, whatever it is that you're expressing needs to be how you're feeling. Maybe you might be interested that she's an accountant. Oh, that sounds really cool. Like I used to have friends in college who were accounting majors, and they said the CPA was really hard to study for. Oh yeah, it was. I don't know. You might find it interesting, or if you find it boring, you can express that, but in a non-insulting but still interesting way. So I'm letting my body replace words, which is simplifying my language, simplifying my expressions, and ultimately I'm coming off stupider. Okay? If you don't have any examples in your life of someone to emulate on this level, I had a client, I gave him this advice to be stupider. And it inspired this video because he sent me a message and he said, I'm watching Love Island right now, which I'm pretty sure is like a British reality TV show. It's pretty popular. And it's just basically a bunch of really hot young people who are also really stupid, and it makes really good television because they're, trying to date each other. And he's watching it. I don't know if I specifically told him to watch that, but he followed my advice very well. And he's like, I'm trying to learn how to talk like a normal person, right? Because if you want to go for like as animalistic as you can get while still not being like retarded, well, maybe in some cases, but they have some decent social skills because the guys there probably get a lot of pussy. Okay, so the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pussy. So go watch a stupid reality TV show and just see people that you would consider stupid and how they express themselves and watch it. Right? Look how they communicate non-verbally a lot, and they don't have to speak a lot. Now, you might look down on them, but they get more bitches than you do. So should you really be looking down on them? I don't know. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of people on Reddit who just jerk themselves off to how smart they are, right? But then that's all they end up doing is jerking themselves off because no one wants to fuck them because they're insufferable. Whereas someone on Love Island might be a bit outlandish or, too much, but they actually might be kind of interesting to be around because they're fucking funny. So be like my client. My client's a smart guy. He's a fucking software engineer, right? Makes a lot of money. But he needs to learn how to become dumb. And he's watching Love Island, stupid, trashy reality TV, and it's helping him. And he joked, he's like, I feel like I'm getting stupider by the moment. I said, good, embrace it, because it's going to help you. Because he thinks he's really up on his own ass. He's not like annoying about being smart, but it's like under the surface where he really values being intelligent. So you can't just force yourself one day to let go of your need to be intelligent. It's conditioned into you from your entire life of being smart. So it's going to take time. But by applying these things that I'm telling you and seeing the results of them, that'll teach your mind to be like, okay, there's no point in trying so hard to look intelligent. Like, I need to become stupider, and girls are going to be more attracted to me. Okay. Then you can use your intelligence when it matters, which is wisdom. Okay. Being intelligent all the time is not very wise. Wisdom is what you're really going for. Intelligence is just your ability to hold a lot of concepts in your head. There's tons of fucking losers on Reddit who have an IQ of what the fuck ever, right? But they're not going to do anything with it. No one gives a shit. And they're going to die an unremarkable person because intelligence without good application is worthless, right? Have wisdom, okay? And specifically with regards to your dating life, a lot of sexuality, dating, romance, relationships, it's not about intelligence. It's not about the smartest man. It's about the most clever man. And the clever man knows when time to be smart, when it's time to be wise, and when it's time to be dumb, because that'll make her pussy wet. So go out there and get stupider. And you will get Jupiter. What was that? Women go to Venus, men go to Mars to get more stupider, something like that. I don't know. I was trying to end it with a witty joke, but I ended up perfectly exemplifying the point of this video and ending it like a goddamn idiot, because I am. So, links in the description, okay? Buy my shit. I'm not going to explain it more than that. Day game, texting, coaching, in the description. Buy it. Give me money. I'll give you the wisdom. I can't give you girls. I'll give you the wisdom for girls in return. Good exchange. Simple, right? All right. Hector Castillo, girlschase.com. Love you.